Before we get into the video, shout out to our sponsors Subside clothing brand. Subside is a new, up-and-coming clothing brand established in Bristol that is looking to add something different with their clean designs that celebrate their roots. You can find the link to all their social medias in the description of this video. From the Terrace Podcast and Subside clothing brand, it's a match made in heaven. Support the boys, support the grind, shop Subside. Hello and welcome back to the From the Terrace Podcast and to another edition of Champ Talk. Regan, we're here to discuss the midweek's games. Wasn't the most controversial week, in all honesty. Really, not too many upsets on the cards, but there is still a couple of interesting talking points to come from the weekend, which is what most of the games we're going to review revolve around, and that is the playoff race. Regan, I mean, the biggest game was Bournemouth losing 2-1 to Cardiff, a game that we I think, did we both predict Cardiff to win that game? I believe we did. Cardiff are flying on form. If you look at that form table since Mick McCarthy's taken charge, I think they're taking 6 or something losses in a row under Neil Harris. McCarthy's come around, 2 draws, and then just wins from there. He's absolutely turned around, and they've won again at a playoff rival. And the result means that Cardiff now move into 6th place, and Bournemouth have dropped outside of the playoff places. And I'll let you take your angle on this. Do you want to go with the angle of how good Cardiff have been? What is going on at Bournemouth?
You could take angles for both sides, which is probably the reason why we both predicted Cardiff to win, because they are I believe they are the most informed team in the league now. They've won five on the bounce, and full credit to every single one of their players, and especially Mick McCarthy, because they deservedly are in the top 6 place. But I can also say that the reason that they are in currently a top 6 place is because of the shambles that are going on at Bournemouth. I messaged you on Twitter. You might not even seen it. It was only like 10 minutes ago, saying that just a couple of years ago, Bournemouth were a mid-table team in the Premier League, led by a very good English manager and Eddie Howe, and now they're going to possibly end up being a mid-table Championship team led by a manager that doesn't have a lot of experience in Jonathan Woodgate, and with a first-team coach being Joe Jordan, which I was absolutely perplexed by when I found that out. Because I think that appointment to me confirms that I don't think many people at Bournemouth know what they want. I'm not sure if they want promotion or...
That thinks of putting a lot of the influence on Harry Redknapp, doesn't it? Harry Redknapp's clearly, we know he came in to help out, and is like, you think Redknapp's been at Bournemouth before, loves the club, an experienced manager. You think, oh, that's a good way maybe to go about things with a club that's had a lot of young managers recently, and they currently have a temporary young manager. But is he just using this as another tool to have some fun? Redknapp, we know he had some problems at the last couple of clubs he's been at in terms of financially, and now he's just bringing Joe Jordan in. Joe Jordan's got to be past it, is he not? Is that really a wise decision? I think it does. Bournemouth had the potential here to, when they got rid of Tyndall, to get in a great manager, because that the club's a club with a great squad and a great project to potentially be had. It feels like they're throwing it all away, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. To answer your question about is Joe Jordan past it, I believe there is a reason why he hasn't been in a coaching role in many, many years, and I think that is the answer to it. His philosophy is, extremely outdated. Harry Redknapp's philosophy is possibly quite outdated as well. And I think, I never really took it from that point of view. It just might be just Harry Redknapp trying to have a bit of fun at a club because it's his first time in a managerial position in quite a while. So yeah, I could see that, and it's all just a bit topsy-turvy, that club, and you can't have uncertainties at the club going into the last 2 games where you're pushing for a playoff place, especially when there are teams like Cardiff and other teams we'll get onto that are breathing down the back of your neck. And what's going on at Bournemouth right now is really bad. But I suppose their blush is being saved by another team around them not doing well as well. But yeah, it's going really badly, I've got to say, for Bournemouth.
And thinking on hindsight's a wonderful thing, but did you think at the time sacking Jason Tyndall was the right idea? apologies for that break. So is the world of working from home. I just had the fire alarms go off. It sounds like my dinner is burnt. It's like charcoal. Anyway, anyway, as I was saying about Bournemouth, it feels like Tyndall. He had a squad there that Bournemouth probably do have a team that should be getting top two, along with Norwich and maybe Watford. But he wasn't doing badly. They were firmly in the playoffs and maybe just out of reach of the top two, but they were doing well. And since he's gone, they've got in a manager who was no more experienced than Tyndall, getting people to help, the likes of Redknapp, who's just it just seems like making decisions, getting all his old mates in, which we know he does at a lot of places. Harry, the problem is when you were getting your old mates back in at Spurs and at Portsmouth and stuff, they were still good. They're outdated now, they're past it, and there's a reason all of you haven't been in jobs for a long time. And I think Bournemouth made a bad decision getting rid of Tyndall. And even if they got rid of Tyndall, they didn't think through a process and get the right person in. They just sort of panicked and thought, oh, we can't get the right person now. We'll just get Woodgate to the end of the season. Well, if you couldn't get the right person in now, you should have never got rid of Tyndall in the first place. And Bournemouth are risking very much so getting stuck in the Championship because they're a club who can't attract loads of players. They're not the biggest club in the world. They have a great structure there, but they're not the biggest. So if they do start to lose the money and lose their players like the likes of David Brooks, the Lewis Cooks, they're going to end up in the Championship. And they had very much potential, I think, to go back up automatically, or whether it be through the playoffs. So yeah, I think me and Regan are a bit perplexed, and this result showed it. Cardiff, obviously, credit to them. We've given them a lot of credit in recent weeks, and I think me and Regan will be predicting Cardiff to win for future weeks to come as well. They're absolutely fine. Another sort of defeat for a team in the playoff places. Top four all winning, but fifth and sixth both lost in midweek. Reading losing 1-0 at Wickham in not the best circumstances. They didn't look good at all. Wickham could have hit them potentially for even more, although Reading did have the penalty miss. Regan, I think the conversation we're having around this is not particularly the game, because we know we can pick up random results, but they're going to go down. Is there two playoff places up for grabs now? Because we said a few weeks ago there wasn't even one. Then it went to one. We thought Bournemouth could drop out. Now it's gone to two. There's only a couple of points in it. Do you think it really is just a fight for fifth and sixth now between a lot of clubs?
I genuinely do, yeah. I suppose we haven't really touched on it for actually at all, really. But Reading have slowly gone back to their last season selves, or their mid-season selves, where they're just not really winning the games. Especially when we look at them last season, they needed to win certain games in order to move up a place, etc., or secure their place. And they're coming up against teams they should easily beat, but they're just not doing. And Wickham are. I'm sorry to any Wickham fan, but I'm pretty sure everyone agrees that Wickham are. You have to beat Wickham in order to make a statement for your position in the league. And I mean, Wickham had 10 men for a lot of that game. What was it for? I can't even remember how long it was. But Wickham aren't a good team. And with one less men, you should easily be beating them. And I think it's kind of gone unnoticed, mainly because of what's happening with Bournemouth, is that Reading are slowly dropping out of that confirmed playoff spot, and especially with another team, which we will get onto next, for getting good results as well. Reading are not by any means certain by a top six spot as well. And based on their form and where a lot of people predicting them, if they can continue this run, which many people predicted that they'd be going through, they might finish below where a lot of people picked them even like 2-3 weeks ago, which is a shame because their early work at the beginning of the season was brilliant. But now it's just all coming undone exactly when they need it to go their way.
Yeah, well, Regan, it did surprise me a bit because it feels like this run of bad form has come off the back of the loss to Brentford, in which I gave Reading a lot of credit and said that before this losing run, obviously that was a month in the middle of Brentford's unbeaten run, I said that Reading were probably the team that tested Brentford the most this season, and they looked very good defensively in terms of, although they conceded 3 goals, and they pressed high and they stopped Brentford from playing. But since they got 4 losses in their last 5, and you mentioned the teams coming up, Reading on fifth in 51 points. Bournemouth are now 6th with 49. You have Bournemouth below that. Cardiff sort of 49. Bournemouth below that with 49. And then you have Middlesbrough in 9th with 46. Stoke in 10th with 45. Even Millwall in 11th with 43. It's not too far off. But the team we are going to mention is the team I just missed out there in 8th place with a game in hand and 48 points. Is Barnsley. They beat Stoke by 2-0, another team that's in that little chasing pack. Barnsley can't stop winning, Regan. Barnsley are a team who me and you've given a lot of credit for since Struber left. We said they were, like Blackburn, who have plummeted down the league, a bit inconsistent. I think they found some consistency now, and me and you both know, it happened with Fulham that year when you went on the unbeaten run, and you were terrible for the first half of the season. You went on the unbeaten run, you made the playoffs, and you ultimately won them. Are Barnsley going to do a Fulham? There's no reason why not, is there?
You can make arguments for yes, they can do it because similar to what Cardiff are going through, they are a very good informed team. But when you compare it to Fulham did have some standout brilliant players. There's a reason why in that team Corley Woodrow was not in the team, and in this team he is their starting striker. So there's a difference in class, but like you said, I don't see why not. They're grinding results out, and they look pretty convincing. Whereas in ones that they don't grind results out, their run of form's been brilliant ever since the Chelsea game, where they still look. They could have. I mean, they should have really, arguably, gone to extra time or replay or whatever. Maybe even won the game. And since then, they've won. I think so. They've won every single game. I believe they have actually. Have they? Yeah.
I think you're right. They beat Brentford. They beat Bristol City. They beat Blackburn. They beat Stoke. I believe they have. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so for that reason, just like similar to what we saying for Cardiff, why not? The teams around them aren't doing great. Stoke are a team around them, and they look pretty convincing against them. So why not? Why not Barnsley for playoffs? And I say it every single time in every episode. If you want to go to the playoffs, you need a bit of momentum if you want to propel yourself to the Premier League. And that's exactly what Barnsley and Cardiff have now. So at the moment, I have to say, if those two can get in it, I think they might be two of my favourites.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you mentioned there, you're on about the quality of the team. And Barnsley, on paper, don't have that much quality. They've got a system that works for them. You do worry that maybe potentially that they're going to you worry that potentially they're going to drop off if they get a couple of injuries. I know that's a lame excuse, but they do very much rely on the system and how it works. And obviously, as a team with not loads of abundance of quality, that would affect them more than others. But you worry about quality when it gets to the final. Say everyone in that sort of table is around form, and it's all about you can't be the team to drop points. Then you think the quality does shine through with the likes of a Bournemouth or something. But when the teams above them are playing so badly and they're playing so well, it doesn't matter, does it, quality? If you're winning games and they're losing, you're going to overtake them. So I think Barnsley have got a great shout. There's still 15, 14 games left of the season. I think when we say form going into it, you want to start hitting that form of the last 10 games, probably, of the season. We'll see how they get on in the next few. But Barnsley have very much got a chance. And this playoff race, which was looking very boring at the start of the season, is really livening up in the Championship. And to be honest, Reading and Bournemouth are being headhunted, and looks like they're going to lose out, in all honesty. That is obviously the review section of this weekend over. Regan, how did we do in predictions?
It was an all right week. I was so close to my gamble paying off to liven up last week's episode prediction. I was so close with Preston. I was like, oh my God, this could genuinely happen. But no, of course, I should have just used the common knowledge that those two teams, at the end of the day, aren't very good and couldn't beat each other. But it was a good week overall. Out of the 12 games we played, we got 8 each. So slowly getting towards the overall 50% mark.
Regan, we're doing better. We are doing better. You know what? We're friends here. We may act like enemies, but we're friends here. And if we're both doing better, I'm happy. I can live with that. I'd much rather draw 8-8 than beat you 3-2 because the overall credibility of our podcast plummets. So I'm taking 8. That's not a bad display from us, I don't think. What does that make the score overall, please? Sorry.
And believe us, when our credibility goes down, at some points we didn't think it can go down. So It's nice to see that it goes a little bit higher up every time we get a few right, even if it is us getting, even though we get 8 and 8, but we still get Reading and Wickham wrong. But oh well, 8 and 8's all right. But overall, I mean, obviously, if you're good at maths or have a brain in your head, you realise that if 8 and 8, the lead doesn't grow or shrink at all. So the lead is still 17. It's 151 to 168, and hopefully the numbers are actually there this week. Unlike it was my score and then S with no one next to it. I blame Jack Apple.
We'll blame it on technical difficulties and Jack Appleby. We won't blame it on myself whatsoever. Regan, let's get into them predictions. Let's raise those scores. We're going for perfect 12s out of 12s this week. The first one is Friday night football, and it is the Midlands derby, the Brian Clough derby. Not Brian Clough. Yeah, Brian Clough derby. God, you get the Cloughs mixed up nowadays. The Brian Clough derby is Derby versus Nottingham Forest. I tell you what, two teams who aren't conceding many goals, aren't scoring loads either, but are down near the bottom, but are probably two of the most informed teams in the league. It's a really interesting matchup, really.
It is, yeah. But the thing you pointed out is that these two teams, they don't score and they don't concede.
And
so
it's a derby game, Regan. Are you getting at something you think you're going to get at?
I think, I mean, you've written it all out. Do I really need to say what's going to happen? That it's a derby. With Derby, it's boring. It's going to be, as Bill has just pointed out to all our Spotify viewers, he's got 2 O's in his hands, which is a 0-0. So that is exactly what's going to happen. And I'm going to say a draw. And I think you're going to agree as well.
It's common knowledge. We're going to go for 0-0. It's derby games. These ones are often boring anyway and are nicked by the single goal. These two teams are so good defensively at the moment, I can see them cancelling each other out. So I'm going to go for that 0-0. As I mentioned, a game that promises more goals, you would think, especially with how many goals are scored in midweek in their games. Bournemouth versus Watford is the early Saturday kickoff. Now, for Bournemouth, this is massive. This is statement of intent stuff. This is, right, we're here and we can compete with the best and we're back. If they lose this, then you worry for them. Watford, on the other hand, they're catching up with those top two. Those top teams have dropped a few points recently, and Watford have taken full advantage of fair play to them. Are you going to go with the form on this one, Regan?
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I haven't really realised, as I mentioned to Bill before we recorded, Watford are on a very good run. They've won 4 in a row, which I think has gone quite unnoticed.
I think
even
maybe
though
you've subconsciously dismissed Watford from any sort of automatic promotion talk, and I still don't think they're going to do it. But while they're there, you have to mention them in that light, don't you? They're right up there in points wise. There's no reason why they can't. I don't personally believe they will do better, and I feel these results will drop off. But Watford, they're right up there with Brentford and Swansea and Norwich at the moment, and they're on great form, as Regan said. So you said you're going to go for a Watford win, I believe, Regan?
Yeah, I'm going to have to, unless Joe Jordan is the new Pep, but I doubt it. I think Watford are going to beat Bournemouth quite easily, if I'm honest.
Yes, unless Joe Jordan, his time away from football, has been watching Pep Guardiola masterclasses on YouTube and taking it all in to that bold noggin of his. I don't think Bournemouth are going to be getting a result in this one either, so I'm going to go for Watford. Regan, this is an interesting one. In the informed side in Barnsley versus Millwall, who back to their drawing ways, and we've mentioned this, they are drawing too many games, but just it doesn't take much to turn those draws into wins. And if they do, they're right up there because, like we said, the team because of Bournemouth and Reading's drop from points. Millwall, Gary Rowett has got to be getting it into his team. There is a light there, and there is light at the end of the tunnel, and they could make those playoffs still. They could still make them. There's plenty of points up for grabs. If they're going to do it, you'd feel like it has to start being now. But are Barnsley going to be too good for them?
It's a tough one to call. I believe if George Evans didn't score that last-minute goal to save Millwall in midweek against Luton, I think this decision would have been a lot easier than what it actually is. But the fact it's another draw for Millwall is planting in my head. It could be another one on the horizon. But Barnsley are performing very well. But I think it's because Millwall are in this fixture. I think it's safer to go for a draw.
I'm tempted to go for a draw. I don't want to copy too much. My thought process is that Barnsley's high press game really does work. But Millwall don't play out from the back particularly. They can mix it up. Millwall, they can play from the back, but they like to mix it up. They can go long. They can go direct down the wings, which means I feel like Barnsley's style may be less effective. And Barnsley and Millwall just simply enough to counteract it. When Bournemouth chased them, Barnsley chased them, they'll go long. it does. It feels like it should be a Barnsley win on form. Like we said, they'd Millwall to draw Masters, so I'm going to go for a draw as well. They just keep doing it. We'll see. We'll see. If Barnsley can get early, that's going to be their best chances. The longer the game goes on, you feel Millwall will grow into it. So I'm going to go for a draw. Birmingham QPR, Regan. QPR didn't win in midweek for the first time in a while. They drew 0-0 at Preston. Birmingham walked over by Norwich, really. You're going to... I mean, technically, you're still going with the form. If you go for QPR, you're going to go for them? Or can you see Birmingham being able to pick up any kind of result?
It seems that whenever Birmingham come up against a team that's on a run of form, they just seem to roll over for them, which isn't good for their survival hopes.
I can confirm the one win Birmingham have in recent times was against Sheffield Wednesday, and it was Sheffield Wednesday of 10 men. And in honesty, Brentford, like we know, if their injury problems, put out a relatively weak side against Sheffield Wednesday and were never troubled whatsoever. So I've realised it really was an achievement, but it wasn't an achievement Birmingham winning that game. So,
not.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the first time this has ever happened, but I believe both of us will be going for, I think this is the second biggest club in West London, I think.
The third. The fourth. Can we count Hampton and Richmond Borough above them? Fifth. What we're both saying is I think UPR are going to be winning at St Andrews. The next one, Regan, is at Ewood Park. It is Blackburn, who are terrible form. There's Coventry, who have beat Brentford and took Swansea close. Only one goal in it. So, I mean, Blackburn lost 5 in a row, Regan. They're putting a run together, but it's not the right one.
Yeah, I think this could be opposite of what's happening. And even I'm seeing on Twitter, obviously not indulge as much Championship as you, but even now I'm seeing on my timeline calls for Tony Mowbray to get sacked. And like you said last week, personally, I don't see it yet, just because of everything he's done for the club. I don't think just one little bad run and then he's gone like that.
Doesn't particularly make sense at this point, does it?
No, not at all. But like you said, Coventry, we've seen them time and time again. Even though there's 2-3 games, they put in pretty good performances. They get results out. It's another tough one to call, which I think is going to divide a lot of opinions, not just yours and mine, but probably quite a lot of people. I can't back Blackburn at the moment. I mean, they scored 2 against Watford, but Coventry they're taking good teams to their limits at the moment. So I've got to applaud them for that, and I'll back them in this one as well.
I think that is probably a wise decision, but I'm going to go for the boring one here, and I'm going to go for a draw. I think these are 2 teams that play similar ways. Blackburn, despite the losses, not always, but tend to have a goal in them. I think we're looking at a low-scoring draw in this one, so I'm going to go for that draw. The next one is at the BCS, the Brentford Community Stadium, that lights up the West London skyline. It is Brentford versus Stoke. Brentford winning 3-0 on Wednesday after the back of three losses in a row. Stoke, on the other hand, losing in the week after they'd went on an okay run by their standards. Reading Brentford still with a lot of injury doubts. It was nice to see the likes of Josh Da Silva and Emiliano Marcondes back in the squad. Ivan Toney did come off the bench for Brentford, but like we know, there's still a lot of injuries there. And Thomas Frank did say that although Da Silva and Marcondes are in the squad, they definitely won't be starting in this game again. I think you may not see Ivan Toney start again. I personally believe, as Brentford have in the next game, Norwich City, those players will be safe for that one. So it's going to be another makeshift Brentford team against a team that you'd say is better than Sheffield Wednesday. But are they going to win?
Another tough one to call, got to be said, mainly because of the reasons you've just said. I believe that with the Norwich game coming up, Brentford will not take this one as serious as what if they had a full-strength team. Whereas Stoke, I believe they've had their win knocked out their sails a bit after being humbled a tad by Barnsley. So it's another tough one. I know Bill's speaking, but I'm going to speak over nonetheless because my logic, you just need to listen to it.
The audio listeners would have had no idea.
Exactly. I am going to say a draw on this one because I don't think I need to explain it. Stoke are involved and Stoke do like an occasional draw. So I am going to say a draw.
And there's potential in that. Like I said, I'm not confident going into a game at the moment. While Brentford don't have to, because to be honest, although we could have drew that game 0-0, but we also could have won it 6-0. But that's because we didn't create loads of chances through fluid football. Brentford got back to basics, like Thomas Frank said. And I tell you what, Brentford never looked like conceding, which was the good thing. Never looked like conceding, but they didn't. The front three didn't work particularly. Brian Mbeumo looked okay through the middle, but Tariq Fosu, I think he's had his patch of form now. As I've always said, I like the guy. Don't think he's a very good footballer. Brentford did look like a team who's disjointed, for a team who's picking the team through of necessity rather than wanting it. It's going to be a tough one, but they won 3-0. And we know Brentford really, at the end of the day, do have the quality still. So I'm going to go for a Brentford win just. But I am not too confident about that result. A few more games to go. Regan, Luton, Sheffield, Wednesday. 2 teams not winning. I'll be honest, I'm going to probably start off this one actually, and I'm going to have to go Luton because I saw how poor Sheffield Wednesday were. And Regan, they created nothing. They didn't make a chance.
Well, all I have to say is that Luton beat Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, and Birmingham beat Sheffield Wednesday. So ergo, Luton are going to beat Sheffield Wednesday. So yeah, I'm going to have to agree on that one as well.
That's how football worked. That was how football worked. The next one then, at the Riverside, Middlesbrough, Cardiff, Neil Warnock up against his former team. Neil Warnock, Mick McCarthy, this is championship football league. And when people say championship football, this is what you think. This is proper N-Power football league years. This is proper Coca-Cola championship. Unfortunately, now it's a Sky Bet championship, but this is a proper game in the second tier. How is it going to go?
I cannot not back Cardiff at the moment. I think it's silly if anyone goes against them, especially after Middlesbrough were wildly beaten by Bristol City. I didn't think Nigel Pearson's impact would be so severe that in about 18 hours of him being appointed, he would lead the team to beating Borough. So I'm going to have to go for Cardiff on this one.
Just his mere presence. He didn't do anything, but it's just mere presence gave him a kick up the backside. I'm going to go Cardiff as well. I think Neil Warnock, out of any manager, he's one of the managers who can give him a problem. I wouldn't be surprised if Cardiff don't win this, but just off the form and how much they're winning, and Middlesbrough's poor display midweek. Middlesbrough are really inconsistent at the moment. I think you have to back Cardiff. You'd be silly not to. 3 games left to go. We've got Preston, Huddersfield at Deepdale. A game that I don't think even Preston and Huddersfield fans give too much of a care about, Regan.
No, this is just 2 teams that are walking losses at the moment, pretty much, which is it sounds horrible, but it's true.
I mean, Huddersfield beat Swansea 4-1 on the weekend, but
this is very true as well. I never back Huddersfield away from home, and Preston got on a right draw, but Preston just aren't very good otherwise. Just because they beat Blackburn a few weeks ago, I'm going to say Preston are going to edge it, maybe a 2-1 or so, Preston nonetheless.
In terms of quality, I'd say this is a game where Preston should win. But if you look at both sides, if I'm actually looking at them thinking, who do I think more can actually put in a display that looks good on the eye and can win a game? At the moment, I'm saying Huddersfield. Despite all the losses, when I look at them, I think, who do I have more confidence? It's not who I have more confidence in getting a result. Who do I have more confidence can put in a performance? And for me, that's Huddersfield at the moment, so I'm going to back Huddersfield away from home, controversially. Penultimate game, Regan. Rotherham versus Reading. Now, Rotherham, then they don't make it easy for sides. This is a test for Reading. Oh, sorry, this isn't the penultimate game. There's one on the Sunday as well. My bad. But Rotherham, Reading. How do we see this going?
Very tough for Reading. Like you said, Rotherham have come up. Rotherham are in a terrible run of fixtures, to be quite honest. But like you said, they've made it difficult for every team they've come up against. And I expect that to be the same. But they come up against a Reading team that are already struggling. And I think that this is the time where Rotherham's tough fixture list is really going to shine through. And I think they're going to be rewarded for a tough few weeks. And they've got 2 games in hand as well. So maybe this could be their turning point to get out of this relegation zone. So I'm going to say Rotherham.
You know what? I'm going to go Rotherham as well. Poor defence recently, Reading. And Rotherham, very much like Wickham, a team who are going to get on top of you. That's the way they're going to try and score a goal. fancy Rotherham, not bad at New York State. You know what? I'm not even saying this with much doubt. I think Rotherham are going to take it. Now the penultimate game. Swansea Bristol City. Nigel Pearson's official first game in charge. Going to a Swansea team who lost 4-1 against Huddersfield. Did come back with a win against Coventry, but not in too convincing a fashion. Can Bristol City cause an upset?
I think they're going to, and I'm going to back Bristol City on this one, just because Nigel Pearson has had more time with his players now, and obviously him just being, like you said, his mere presence is good enough for them to turn a result around. And Coventry, they conceded 4, and they're not really taking their chances at the moment, it must be said, even though they come up against a still shaky Bristol City defence. But I am going to say Bristol City are going to win, and maybe they're going to mount that playoff charge again. Probably not, but I'm going to say Bristol City nonetheless.
I'm not quite sure on that one, but I see the thought of a Bristol City win. What I don't want to do is get too sucked into looking at one performance and completely disregarding Swansea, because by points per game, they're still in the top 2. I do think Pearson has an effect though, because the mood around the club's been lifted. It clearly with that big performance that came out of nowhere at Riverside, Pearson would have got into them. Players often have a bounce, especially for the first few games, let alone the first. I feel that Bristol City are going to get a draw at Swansea. I don't want to go too top, but I think we're going to see a draw. I've predicted quite a few of them this week. I'm sitting on the fence. Although we wouldn't want me sitting on the fence, would we? It would break. Anyway, the final game of the weekend is Wycombe versus Norwich and Regan. Are we ending it in abrupt fashion? I think there's only one way we can call this. I'm going Norwich. They're walking away with the league. Are you going Norwich?
I just like to say that you need to stop beating yourself down. That is, even though it's a flimsy fence, I think you're fine the way it is. But I don't worry at all. I don't know why it's one of these games. I have a really bad feeling that it's just gonna suit Wycombe, and I think they could edge it. But no way can I believe that to a certain extent. And Norwich, like you said, are walking away with this league quite easily. So Norwich.
I do see what you mean. It has one of those ones, a Sunday midday kickoff. It just in the Championship, it always throws up a nice result. But yeah, that is our predictions over with, and that means that's this edition of Champ Talk done with. If you did enjoy the video, remember to like it, subscribe to the From the Terrace podcast YouTube channel, leave us a rating on iTunes, follow us on Spotify, and we'll see you in next Champ Talk.